Okay, hello all. These are some daytime catches. I wanted to include this first clip. It's this little blinking orb. I shot a bunch of clips in this area of the sky, and this little blinking orb was in everything I shot. I didn't see him with my eyes. I only caught him after everything I was reviewing the film. But he sat in one place for the longest time, and then over the next couple clips you see, you'll see that he's just in everything. And I've got a couple stills here that I can zoom in on. Here comes the first still, and there he is. This is where he sat, right in this first still. He sat there for, I don't know, 10 minutes or something that I'm aware of. Okay, here comes an object to the right. This is at 50% speed, and I'm not even going to bother to run the full speed because you just can't see it. Here he comes again on the right hand side, and he's coming in, and you can see how he kind of uses the clouds as camouflage. He seems to traipse along the long ones and stay kind of mixed up in the other ones. Here it comes. Oh, this is the relationship. The bottom one is the white disc you just saw go across, and there's the blinking orb that was in everything I shot that day. And here comes the little white disc again with inverted color. Now this time we're only running at 30% speed. And here he comes, and notice how he hides in this long cloud. He's moving so quickly, I don't even know why he bothers. You can't see him. As a matter of fact, I almost threw this clip away. I just happened to go frame by frame and notice him. I was busy looking at the little blinking orb. So we'll let this clip run. When it gets to the left-hand side here, I took a still, and that was the one I just showed you, which is why it cuts off where it does. But pretty much where I took the still is where you lose him in the clouds, and right above him you can see that blinking orb going. And this is the last shot. This is at 10% speed, and I've just manipulated the contrast a little. There he is, stashing behind the cloud. Pokes out for a second. Right here, his actually brightens for a second, and that's what I noticed when I was going frame by frame. Makes me wonder how many things I've thrown away. Because if you don't go through these frame by frame, these things are so fast you'll just never see them. And there is the blinking orb up on the left. And there it is, a white disc and a blinking orb. And I've got another one coming pretty quick, and it's actually better than this one. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. I have so much footage that I've been going through, and I'm going to get this out as I get there, but at the same time I'm ramping up to do the shooting of the lunar cycle, which is beginning now. I have so much chemtrail footage to go through that I have not decided whether I'm going to just do one larger clip or a few smaller clips like this. But this was shot in New England, near the island of Aquidneck. And I kept seeing planes that looked like this that were just billowing these very long, short trails. These are all handheld shots, and what I was trying to do was get some high-resolution shots so I could zoom in like this. Focus is very difficult under situations like this. It's kind of so-so focus. But we're going to culminate here in video of one of these planes. There's actually two planes that I'm going to show stills of that were doing this. It was weird because they were so far away, they almost appeared like they weren't moving to the naked eye. Once I got video on it, I tried to hold as stable as I could because I didn't have my tripod. But you'll see what's so strange about this. There were tons of high-altitude planes, which I have footage of as well, but I wanted to get these out because so many people still don't understand that these planes are spraying. I mean, does this look like a contrail to anyone? Be reasonable. You can see where it cuts on at the bottom of this kind of plume coming away from the plane. But in a second here, when I show you video of the one that I managed to get, you'll see this is just a very strange thing. And I have two stills shot the same day of a plane that's just glowing in a very weird way. And as we clicked over to try to get video of it, we couldn't find it again. And there were three people standing there looking at it. One of them had binoculars, and we just completely lost the plane. Anyhow, here comes the video, and look at the tip of this little kind of plume that is just turned on. I started filming him right after he began to spray. It just blinks the whole time, and the weird thing is you can't really detect a plane there. The plume is so kind of profuse and right up to the edge of whatever's spraying this, whereas the stills I just showed you, it was pretty easy to see the outline of a plane. And as I zoom in here and run a couple filters, you'll see. But I think the main importance of footage like this is, I mean, come on, this guy's spraying. Is there any other way to describe what you're seeing here? But look at that weird kind of just blinking going on the top of this plane. Very strange. And this is handheld video. So I'm going to load up a couple views of this and zoom in as best I can. I know the focus isn't perfect, but this guy was just so far away from me. It's difficult to get a great focus when the sky is blue all around you. I think footage like this is important because it really demonstrates that this isn't contrails. Contrails are a red herring in my view. I've never filmed living in a flight path any commercial airliner with passengers leaving any kind of a contrail, and on the very same day I filmed stuff like this. So I think it's pretty clear that footage like this demonstrates that these planes, or whatever the heck this thing is, because it's almost like you can't detect a plane there. There's just some blinking thing and a massive plume coming out. Had it not been for the stills I ran in the beginning, you'd really be questioning what it is that's doing the spraying here. Here's a find edge filter that kind of shows that there's 4 distinct streams coming off the back of this thing. I think it had been shooting for probably, it turned on its sprayer maybe 30 seconds. By the time I got the video on it, it had been spraying for about 30 seconds. And it is so far away from me that it almost appears that it's not moving. So this is, I'm using a telephoto at a very great distance here. Now I have a ton of chemtrail footage, among other things, to go through, and I don't think I'm going to run it all. I'm going to do a couple of bigger ones, but as we got down to Virginia, we began to see this, where they were spraying at every level, and in a second here you'll see me zoom through the cloud cover way up there. I don't know how, maybe that guy's 40,000 feet or more. He's spraying above the lower chemtrails. At any rate, I just thought that plane with the blinking top and just spewing out that crap was a very interesting clip. So we're basically here. It's time to film. I know it's 2 days earlier than this calendar shows, but I am going to start up filming now. I'm going to shoot for as much of this time as I can. I will still be trying to post video and review it as I get through. If you have the ability to film, please do. The 20th through the 30th, we're going to be looking for the lunar wave. The 23rd is the equinox, and for most of us, the 27th and 28th, or from the 27th into the 28th, is going to be the supposed lunar eclipse, which is always important to get on film. So there it is. Cheers. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. I have a weird clip here. It's a chemtrail plane that was spraying like a rainbow-colored junk into the air, and it disappears, literally disappears. I should point out that the last clip up, I had a star being occulted and a shot of Saturn that was also taken, that was trip footage, as is this. Here's a plane shot with the same camera that I'm going to show you with this other plane. It's much further away, shot with the telephoto just to give perspective. But this is shot in video, which is much lower resolution than the stills I'm going to show you. So here comes the chem plane that I fired off a series of stills. You can notice the really rainbow hue in whatever it is that he's spraying, and I shot many of these guys this day. They were spraying all different kinds of stuff all day long. It never stopped. Look at this plane. I don't know whether it's got an adaptive paint job on it or whether there's something else at play, but this plane literally disappears. I fired off, I don't know, in the neighborhood of 10 shots pretty quick, like click, click, you know, wait a few seconds, click, but I was firing like that. So take a look at this plane and we'll go through the series of images. What you also notice, and why I think this footage is also important, is it shows the plane turning off its sprayer. So many people want to say these are contrails. These are not contrails. It's not even really debatable whether these are contrails. That is just a misinformation campaign and people who just simply don't understand because they haven't taken the time to investigate. So what you can see on the top there is the spray is thinning out a little bit, as is the spray behind the plane there. And we're going to go step by step through the series of stills I took, and each time look at the plane itself. And over time, it's going to get harder and harder to see until it turns off the sprayer and becomes completely invisible. Right there you can see the sprayer is beginning to be shut down. When you get up to the front here, you'll see. You can already see brakes right there. He's starting to shut down his sprayer. There's the plane, still getting more difficult to see, and you can see that the debris that he is spraying is becoming less and less. We'll go down the trail again. And there's the brakes and the spray. Look behind him. It's getting thinner and thinner. The reason I started shooting this guy is because we could see the rainbow color in his spray. There were at least 4 or 5 other planes in the air at different altitudes. And I am shooting this with a telephoto. So here's a close-up of the plane. You can clearly see it. Look, just above, there's a little orb, which will come into play just above the spray to the left. And I will show you a better example of an orb. They always seem to show up when they're spraying. Here the plane is completely cut its sprayer. There's the plane circled to the left is where he cut his sprayer. And the plane is not that much further away from me at this point. And I think I shot all the stills in a matter of probably under 45 seconds. So there's the plane circled on the right. You can see where the spray has been cut off on the left. And you can see how difficult this plane is becoming to be visible. And we'll keep going. In this footage, look, so there's an orb, and these things were all over when we shot in Virginia. I showed an earlier clip of one that was not visible in visual spectrum, but we saw it with the full spectrum camera through the telescope. But for some reason, these little orbs are always around when there's heavy chemtrail spraying. I shouldn't say always, but quite frequently. There's the circle showing you the plane again. Still clearly visible. You can get a good look, but you can see how the nose is kind of, I'll move the brightness a little. You can see how the nose is starting to become more difficult to see. Now there's the plane, and all you can really detect is the tail fin. In the center, that dark line is the tail fin of the plane. The rest of it has just kind of disappeared. Very strange. This plane is not far enough away, over 45 seconds of shooting stills, to be invisible. As I zoom out, you can see it a little better, but you can see where he cut the spray right there. So, you know, anyone who wants to act like these are contrails, they're just coming from an uninformed position. That is chemtrail debris, or whatever you want to call it. There are orbs around, which we always see frequently when this happens. You can see that whatever was emanating from the back of this plane was just cut off cold, and that is not contrails. Not to mention that every hour of the day that we shot, there were these planes at different levels. Again, the reason I started to film, this is from an earlier shot in the series when I first picked him up. The reason I started firing high-res stills is because of the rainbow hue that was coming off this plane. And there were at least 3 or 4 other planes in view. This is the one that had this look to it. Now when I shoot video, the frame is just under 2,000 pixels wide. When I shoot stills like this with my good camera, they're over 7,000 pixels wide. So there it is, man. Another chem plane caught turning off its sprayer and then literally disappearing before my eyes. The nose became invisible before the tail. Anyhow, we're still out shooting every night till the 30th. There's a lot of us doing it. The lunar wave was captured by Richard on the east coast of America on the 20th, but we are still looking to try to get a better or more kind of prevalent, prominent example. And we really want to try to catch the eclipse on the 27th for most of us. So there it is. Cheers. Alright, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. This is going to be excerpts of chemtrail footage that was shot all over the eastern seaboard from the southern end of New England all the way down to Virginia. We're going to open up with a plane that turns off its chem sprayer. You'll see kind of center left there's a chemtrail. As I pan across, you'll see where it thins out, comes back on. This is often what it looks like when a plane turns off its sprayer. There's the plane center frame that did it. I watched him do it, and I'm going to show you some very high resolution stills in a minute. I'm shooting with video here and a telephoto lens. Here's the high resolution imagery, and we'll go down the chemtrail, and there's kind of the signature look you see quite often as they're getting ready to turn off their sprayer. It gets thin, comes back on a little bit, and then cuts all the way, and then there's the plane that did it. That is not a contrail. Contrails don't turn on and off. Interesting thing happened. Three of us were standing there. I had a telephoto, one person had binoculars. I visually spotted this and clicked off 2 high-res stills, and a person with binoculars was sighting it. As I switched over to try to get video of this strange looking plane, we lost it. All 3 of us. We could not find it anywhere. You'll notice there's an orb to the upper left of this plane, and it's got this very strange glow. I've seen a lot of images presented where people are claiming this is a telltale sign of a holographic plane and other things. I don't know much about that, but I can tell you this plane was strange. Now, as we got into high population density areas where the education level was high, this was shot in Virginia, what we tended to see was chemtrail spraying at all 3 levels, high, mid, and low, but not very persistent. Quite often it was chemtrails that kind of blend out into the sky very quickly with a few persistent trails here or there, or plane leaving very short, thick, persistent trails that look like a cloud within 10 or 15 minutes. As we got down below Washington, D.C., in the Baltimore area, the exact opposite of what I just said was true. What we would see was just whole hog spraying at every level. What you're looking at here is chemtrails being mixed, 2 kinds of chemicals being mixed. The big wide cloud was left by a previous plane, which I actually watched spray that persistent cloud, and then another chemtrail sprayed next to it, and you can see the negative space left where the 2 chemicals are mixing together. Over the course of about 45 minutes, you can see above this, it becomes this kind of shiny, milky white sky. There's another shot. You can see right above the negative space where the chemicals mixed. Now there's a long shot with my telephoto. In the foreground, there's a persistent chemtrail at the bottom of frame. You can see the trail that was sprayed right of frame, and then you can see the negative space where that trail mixed with the previously sprayed chemical, which is pretty clearly a different thing was being sprayed, is my guess. You can also see frequency patterns in the upper left and upper mid frame here, where it literally looks like some kind of a frequency is being emitted into the chemtrails. So there's an interesting thing. One of my longtime supporters and collaborators on this channel has kind of uncovered that FedEx planes have been being bought and converted for aerosol spraying, which is very interesting indeed, because so many have commented on some of my recent clips stating that those are FedEx planes. I hope to be able to uncover this soon. The research is ongoing, but what's going on, it appears at this point, is that there is a verifiable trail of FedEx planes being bought by a company outfitted for aerosol spraying under the guise of a different use. Okay, so stay tuned. I've got some more interesting footage. I've got eclipse footage. This FedEx plane thing is very interesting, and I hope to be able to bring that to you soon. And there it is. Cheers. So let me get my tripod undone here. Kind of sticky because it's hot out here, but you can see this kind of short trail that cuts on right there. I've been able to catch the high altitude planes, but the low altitude planes are getting increasingly hard to see, and I'm almost wondering if drones are doing it. You can see how it cuts on right before it gets over me, and a lot of them cut off pretty quickly after they've done it. That one may cut right there, but it's a very delicate thin line that becomes very persistent. Not the typical thing we see laid by the planes that I shoot, which is a bit wider. So I'm just wondering what the heck has changed and if drones or something are involved. But the whole sky is just now a mess today. Alright, so what I'm finding is it's very difficult to spot the chem planes, but what you can see, let me see if I can zoom in, there's a chemtrail right there that's been snuck in, and the way he did it was, hold on, let me, alright, I was wrestling that thing. The way he did it is there is this massive front that has been created by the chemtrails. You can see the chem debris coming off from the side there. It's really big. Kind of covers the whole sky in the west of me. But what you can see is that they are flying using that as a shield to spray their trails, and I keep trying to spot the planes, and there are some high altitude planes today, but I'm trying to catch these low guys. Okay, so what we're seeing here is that the high altitude planes are as they ever have been, but the low altitude planes have become very covert, and while we can absolutely see the result of what they're doing, catching the actual planes doing it has become very difficult. And as a matter of fact, as I have mentioned in so many recent clips, every lunar cycle since March, with the exception of the one we are in now, has been interrupted by chemtrails, and even the beginning of this lunar cycle was being interrupted by chemtrails. What we are seeing is trails cutting on right over the city and cutting off a mile or two later when they clear the edge of the city. We are seeing thinner chemtrails in some instances, making me wonder if it's not a plane at all that is shooting them. I would say to anyone who has an interest, who cares about what is going on, if you see low altitude chem planes, film them and post what you get. Do not let them get away with impunity with what is going on here. It's unconscionable, and it is clear to me that in my area they are actively disguising what it is they are doing. And what we often see around here are days like this. It's just a mess. And anyone who is a sky watcher, sky filmer, knows exactly what is going on. This is all chem debris. None of this is natural clouds. Okay, so last night I shot some craziness in full spectrum by the moon. Almost looks like smoke underwater or something going on. I've got a ton of video to review. I'll be getting through that as quick as I can. The road trip is getting nearer, and I want to thank all who have contributed. I've only got just a few more days of funding left. I have estimated that my gas alone on this trip will cost about $3,000, and I believe many people donating small amounts have covered about half that amount. So truly I thank you, because the gas bill alone, you know, it's just nothing is cheap in this country anymore. You know, I hope that my estimate is close to what it should be. But, you know, one of the things I'm going to do when I'm hitting every state is I will be looking up and seeing what is going on in terms of chemtrails. I will give a 30-state State of the Union, or as many states as I hit, State of the Union report when I get back, to cover everything that I see. But chemtrails are such a concern. I just really want to get out there and observe firsthand what I can see across this country. And I know for a fact the East Coast is getting plowed. Cheers. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Show. I have a real interesting clip here. I was driving out to get some grub the other day, and I looked up and I thought, oh, they've been chemtrailing. But lo and behold, it was not chem planes that left what I was seeing in the sky, which I will show you footage of here shortly. So stay tuned and you will see what left the chemtrail-like residue for hours. And also to show that this is very related to chemtrailing, as I'm filming, lo and behold, an orb shows up. And as we all know, the orbs hang out where they're chemtrailing. So here we go. And there is the after effects. So you can see the smudgy clouds coming. Very similar to chemtrails. The look that it leaves.
There's a chemtrail right there. Look.
I saw it. And then on the other side of the sky, we have a chemtrail. And that's not from the air show. The air show is much north, and I'm pointing now southwest. So yeah. So we're going to go backward in time. This is at least 2 hours old. This is probably maybe half an hour old, and this one is just a few minutes old. So what is leaving these trails behind, these persistent trails? Here's the culprits. Well, actually quite a ways north of us, they're having an air show. And I'm going to show you a couple things here. If you remember the clip I did back a while ago, proof that chemtrails are real, I'll show you some of the same characteristics in this skywriting that we see in chemtrails. So here they are laying their trails, and I'll just let you watch for a second. It's actually very precision. It's crazy how accurate they are. They're perfectly in line on the X, Y, and Z axes to do this. Must be computer controlled to be this accurate. At any rate, here in a second I'll load a new clip. I'll let you watch it for a second just so you can see what they're doing. Now you'll notice that when they cut the sprayer, there is residual spray, which is what I demonstrated in my other clip when I was showing actual chemtrail spraying. And when I saw that these trails were persistent, and I'm going to zoom in here, watch when they cut. The guy on the top's thing isn't working as well as the other one. Takes him a bit longer to cut off. But you see the residual, and these guys are being very accurate with their spraying because they're forming letters with it. But if you go back and look at my proof for chemtrails clip, you'll see when they cut their sprayer, the same thing happens. And again, these trails lasted many hours. I don't know, 3, 4. They were still, as the sun was going down, I could still see. But lo and behold, look up there, there is an orb. And I have never filmed an orb when there wasn't chemtrailing. I've never seen an orb or filmed an orb. And I've filmed quite a few, always when chemtrailing is occurring. So there it is. Here's chemtrail technology. I don't know what they're actually spraying, but it's clearly persistent and shares the characteristics. It's being used to entertain people here today. But there's the orb. And while I was shooting this day, I filmed a couple other things. And these little things, I filmed them a few times. I'm using a telephoto lens, so for anything to be even reasonably in focus, it has to be near the focal plane. You'll notice the chemtrails, or the skywriting, is slightly out of focus. And watch, you didn't see anything. Now I'm going to take both of these clips and slow them down and color and contrast them. And I'll highlight the object going through, which you couldn't see in the first footage. I think this one comes from the lower left, if I remember correctly. And here he comes. Now I'm going to stop that and blow it up so you can see. And it's not quite in perfect focus, but it's near focus, which means with a telephoto lens, this thing has to be near the focal plane. And I was aiming at those trails really high in the sky, and they were not quite in focus. I was a little shallow on the focus. Here's the second clip. You'll see nothing go through it. Oh, there he is. I highlighted him. Sorry. You see that go through it, kind of arcs there. So I'm thinking, is this a bug or a bird? But when you look at it, it's a little bit out of focus, but not completely blurred. So those are interesting, and I've filmed them many times. At any rate, here's some supporters from Scotland. The brothers Gary and Andy Cameron. Thanks, guys, for supporting me. over there in Scotland. They look like they could be my bodyguard if I ever visit there. These guys like to rail against chemtrails, so I'm with them. Right on, guys. Keep it up. And lastly, if you have purchased shirts, please send me images so that I can include them in my clips. And there it is, skywriting, used to entertain the masses, and clearly a lot like chemtrails. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. I was making this clip to show people that keep asking me how to film the sun just to see sunspots, not in H-alpha. So I started making a clip to do that, and I saw chemtrails, so I swung over to film them, and I got this weird, like, cloaked plane. I couldn't see it with my eyes. I didn't even know I filmed it till I got into the editing room, but anyhow, we'll look at that as well. But we'll start off with what I'm using to film the sun to see sunspots and stuff like that. And any camera could do this if it had a solar filter, and you can zoom in the editing room when you're done. So here we go. Alright, so anyhow, this is the homemade filter, and the film that's on this, you can get a pretty big sheet of it for about 75 bucks. So you can make them for a big telescope. I have one for my 8-inch. I try to use that on the 12, but I've got to make something new because light leaks in on that conversion. But this is all it takes, and if you film like this, even with just a regular lens, you can get sunspots, and if anything crosses the sun, like the UFO I filmed the other day or whatever that thing is, you'll pick it up. And like I said, even if you don't have a telephoto to get you in that close, you can still zoom in the editing room. So that's how I do it. Okay, so people have been asking me how I film the sun. So anyone can do this that has a camera. The way I'm doing it is we have the camera body. This right here is a doubler, and what it's doing is doubling the reach of the telephoto. Even if I was just using my old Canon with a lens, you can still do this because when you get in the editing room, you can zoom the images in to some degree. So it's not that hard. Now this is the homemade solar filter, and let's see, I need to film this chem plane real quick. Actually, I need to get the telephoto on this. So anyhow, I'll be back. Okay, so I swung over and there were a few chem planes, like 3 in a row, so I filmed them, and I got this weird looking cloaked plane thing. Unfortunately, with the doubler, every jiggle you put in, it's going to come in the upper right here real quick because this is real time. So you can see him better now. There he goes crossing. He's center frame going out. Now I'm going to slow him down. But I have the doubler on, and here he is at the top. He's going to cross the chemtrail, and you can just kind of follow him. Every jiggle you have with a doubler translates really bad, and so I didn't have time to unlock everything and kind of move it back and forth to get everything loosened up, so that's why the footage is jerky. When you're using a doubler, it's very unforgiving. Okay, here he comes, and what's weird about this plane is I couldn't see it, and I almost didn't see it when I was reviewing this footage. I was looking for orbs and stuff. There he crosses the chemtrail, but it's almost like he's got one of those adaptive paint jobs or something, because he's way lower. You can tell by the size that he's way lower than the chem plane, and you can see the chem plane. There was a light that just blinked, and that happens once more before he goes off frame. But I'll get a better view. There was the running light, I guess. And here comes a new view, upper right. I won't zoom in so much, but it's almost like the skin or the paint just makes it nearly invisible. I don't know if that's a military plane or what it is, but it looks dang near cloaked. And we'll take one more view of this thing. There he is in the chemtrail. and he pokes out right there. And you can just see he's very difficult to see. It looks like maybe a military jet to me, I think. I'm not sure. Very strange. I've never been filming, you know, because I'm looking up to see if I see anything interesting to film, and I couldn't see this at all with my eyes. I have my glasses on too. But anyhow, so I'm going to show you the sun, the view of the sun you get with the homemade solar filter with that film that you can buy. So here's the view, and if a satellite or any object goes between you and the sun, you'll pick it up. I think this filter knocks down like 98 or 99% of the light. It's a lot. But still, if something, you know, comes in between you and the sun, you will film it. And I proved that the other day when I filmed the first object I've seen go in front of the sun. And actually there's at least two objects in that footage. And there's the biggest sunspot we have right now. You can go to the Soho view. You know, this is cool to do too because you can confirm whether the Soho view and these other things are giving you a true view of what's going on. And I included this. We had a very cold wind shift come down from Canada, and it was like 34 degrees in San Diego, which is unusual. And it just makes the moon look like this, like it was underwater as the cold air was coming down and mixing in with the warm air. And we stayed out there and filmed as long as we could, but we're not really set up for that kind of cold weather. But I just thought this was interesting, and you know, could fool you into thinking it was the wave, I guess. But it's just air turbulence. So there it is. Cheers. Okay, so this is a pretty darn serious clip. I hope you guys pass this around. People need to see what's going on. I was setting up my scope. Crrow said, hey, look, there's an orb. And so manually I tried to get it in my scope's viewfinder, which is not an easy task. Anyhow, here's what I picked up. At first I thought it was an orb, and it's very difficult to operate the scope manually with no controls because everything's in reverse and you're kind of just swinging. You know, what you see is backwards to what you're doing. This is the object that I picked up. At first I thought, wow, finally we've got the telescope on an orb, but this is no orb. I've seen orbs, and I've seen a lot of things that are bright like a welding arc. This thing was super, super white, but the sun is going down behind it. Now what happened here was there was a chemtrail that it's going through now that had been laid, I don't know, 10 minutes prior, 15 minutes prior. It was already starting to widen out. And then there was a fresh chemtrail laid just over it. Now I assume this was dropped out of that chemtrail plane. I don't know where else it could have come from. The chemtrails were very low and close together. As you can see, it almost looks like it has a phase on it. I don't know whether it's the sun coming through this thing or what's going on. But as this thing began to drop, I noticed another thing. You can see the chemtrails are going to the left, and this round, I'll call it an orb, it's not an orb, is going to the right, almost like it's being controlled somehow. It's going against the breeze that's pushing the chemtrails to the left. Now, watch this clip until 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You have to see what happens here. This was done over solid houses, miles and miles of solid houses, and I tracked it all the way down to the roof of my house, blocked me from seeing any further, and I edited this down because I have 15 or 20 minutes worth of footage of this falling. But anyhow, in a second here, you're going to see what happens. Here it comes. Boom. And all this, I mean, Lord only knows what's in this. I show you a few views here where I change the color, I slow it down, I zoom in. Now, here it comes again. And it looks like it got shot or something, but I didn't hear any bullet or anything like that. It just blew up. The crazy thing is all this stuff was falling, and I had the opportunity to track the stuff that was falling, and I think I picked the wrong object. What I ended up, by the time I got it on the computer, I realized I tracked the container that held this crap that they blew up over houses. There's a red thing that you'll see in the following footage. This picks up again right at the explosion. The lowest thing you can see here is like a red ember, and I was looking in a 3-inch LCD, so I couldn't really tell, so I picked up the brightest thing, which is that white thing, which I believe is just the container that held this crap, whatever it is, nanobots, chemicals, who knows, but it's all falling down into neighborhoods where there's wall-to-wall houses. I'm calling this thing a chem bomb. I don't know what else it could be. I didn't see it come out of the plane, but I don't know where else it could have come from. It fell against the wind. The prevailing wind was blowing the chemtrails to the left of this frame, and this thing fell to the right. There's the red object again near the bottom. It's a glowing ember, and you can actually see jets moving away from it, and sparkles come. At any rate, I'm going to speed this up at some point so you don't have to watch it just fall and fall and fall. But I tracked this all the way down and this stuff fell on houses. You know, I've filmed some astonishing clips. I've filmed what I think are holograms on the moon. I've filmed boomerangs that are clearly under intelligent control. But this clip right here needs to get passed around. Whatever they dropped out of this plane and whatever blew up out of this chem bomb fell all over houses. I don't know what else to say about it. Anyhow, I'm going to quit talking. If you want to watch the rest of this, you can. It just shows I guess, the container falling, and you'll see sparkles and other things come as it goes down, but I tracked it all the way down until my roof blocked me from seeing it, and I know damn well this fell on people, houses, gardens, water. Just, it's ridiculous. Anyhow, there it is. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. I'm actually going to cover a few things that people have been asking me, and I'm going to expose a new way that chemtrailing is going on. But first, I need to address the theft of my clips. It's getting out of hand. There are whole channels that have been put up that have just downloaded and re-uploaded my clips. There are folks running ads on my work, changing the titles, removing any way for people to know that I shot this to get a hold of me, which is a pretty important thing because I've been contacted by so many people that have allowed me to further what I understand about things, and I don't appreciate this. So I'm just going to say this as simply as I can. I have no desire to file copyright claims, but I have had it. If you're running Crrow 777 clips, I'm not even going to bother to notify you anymore. I spent hours the other day asking people to remove my footage. I got some FUs back, I got ignored, and I got some people that told me I have no right to my own work. So that's it. If you're running Crrow 777 clips, take them down, because if I have to do this, I'll set aside a whole day. It's just, there's no way I'm going to watch my work be retitled and your agenda placed on it and edited in clever ways. So there it is, fair warning. Anyhow, let's move along. Okay, now for something a little more enlightening as we get into it. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. And that inverted bowl they call the sky, whereunder crawling cooped we live and die, lift not your hands to it for help, for it as impotently moves as you or I. As you know, I look to old writings and multicultural writings. I think they have a lot to offer us in terms of knowing things. But let's jump in. First, I want to address telescopes and equipment. Many people have been asking me what happened. So this was the scope that I had acquired. It was outside the funding. The funding covered the camera and the telephoto lens. This thing failed. It failed once. I did a return. It came back. The very first time I powered it up, it failed again. People came out, technician, and we tried to revive it, and it just fried. The problem here is Meade, well, let me say it this way. Meade was one of the premier scope builders on the planet, and they're having problems now with the larger scopes. A lot of these parts are made in China, and I don't want to badmouth these guys. I mean, the scope had the potential to be the premier scope, the functionality, the optics, what it could do, and it was mind-boggling. But the problem is these scopes are not going to last. So many people ask me when they're going to buy their first scope. This is what I'm going to say. If you're buying something smaller than 8 inches, I think this is maybe less of a concern for you. But if you're going for that big scope, do your homework. Go into the user groups, go online, find people who have purchased the scope that you're interested in, and find out how it's worked out for them. Do your homework. Avoid things that were made in China, which is not an easy thing to do at this point. But that's about what I can tell you right now. In the old days, I would have just pointed you towards Meade, and that's no longer going to be the case. And I will be upgrading shortly, and it will not be a Meade. I did a lot of research to get where I'm going, and I'm not going to talk about that model because of the way that the Meade failed, which brings me to solar. You have seen recently the clip I did on the Eclipse, which was solar work. I was recently funded again to specifically upgrade my solar filming capability, and as you can see here, surface detail, prominences, I'm going to be jumping into the ring with solar work. There's a lot to see and a lot to know, and it also allows me to have targets to film when I do not have decent nighttime targets. We've always got the sun when you can see it. So let me jump to the next thing. Okay, so I also want to address, as many people have been asking me about the crowdsourced funding that went on. So 6 months into my channel, people had been saying that I should try to crowdsource funding for upgrades of equipment so that I could have better equipment and present better video. 6 months in, I finally decided to do this. It's a lot of work, but I did do it, and that funding paid for the Nikon camera and the telephoto lens outright. And so I want to thank everybody who supported me and contributed. And I want to mention, you know, I owe you guys a debt. I have this equipment in my hands now. I have this ability, and I will not forget the debt that I owe. And I will put in the work. I will do the work and put in the editing hours and everything else that goes with it to put this equipment to good use and try to further what we know, which jumps me to my next topic. As many are aware, my clips have been covered in many of the news agencies around the world, and besides the Examiner, and I owe an apology to the Examiner, they did the best job, and my followers were most impressed with Roz's articles from the Examiner, and unfortunately I confused them and said that they had gotten most of their article wrong. That was incorrect, and I apologize to the Examiner. But I am going to throw my hat into the ring and try to become a journalist so that I can cover my own work. And if that goes well and I'm able to pull it off, I hope that my subs and followers will come along for the ride and watch my articles and follow me there. So I'm reading a list as I go down to answer things. Okay, the other thing is sunrises and sunsets. There's been a lot of stuff posted lately about objects near the sun at sunrise and sunsets, and a lot of reports from all over the planet. And I'm going to offer up some images and video when I talk about chemtrailing, that people are not seeing the sunset and sunrise because the chemtrailing is so heavy at these times. So I think it would be cool if someone put up an online repository where people could upload just sunrise and sunset images and show what they capture, tell where they are on the planet. I think there's a lot to be known there. And I will also add, people are posting images of objects near the sun, which is why I think it's also a good reason to start pointing your camera that way and see what we can come up with. This image that you're looking at now, a dear friend of mine in the East posted. She's been filming sunrises and sunsets, and she's catching objects. This is one of about 4 or 5. She has some white orb-looking things, and I may post those at a later date. But let me move along. Okay, so that brings me to the new observations that I've been making on chemtrails. I've had the telephoto for quite a while, and since I got the telephoto, I've only had two occasions to film persistent chemtrails that we've grown to recognize. What's going on now is this. This plane is just over 40,000 feet, and notice that the chemtrail is not very persistent, but when you look at it magnified, you can tell it's just billowing stuff out. And as you can see, this is a 360 view of the sky. The whole sky is closed with this familiar look, and this was done by probably 3 or 4 planes. What they're doing now is putting planes that are way up there, 38, 40,000 feet sometimes. They're spraying very heavily. The trail is not persistent, and it closes the sky like this in a matter of 2 hours or something like that. It's very quick, maybe even quicker. At times we have noticed at the nighttime that we go out to look at the stars, and then we come out again and there's no stars to be seen. The sky is closed, and these planes are flying at night. Here's another shot of one of the planes that is way up there. This is fully zoomed in with the telephoto. This is an editing zoom that I'm doing here. And I'll show you how close we can get. I'm about to put a doubler on my telephoto, so I'll be able to get darn near as close to these things as I do with my telescope. It's just impossible to get that close, to track them with the scope. This is what the plane looks like. Now, I looked up a few of them, and you can do this. Put in flight radar as your search term. I think one of them is flight radar 24, and there's another one. I forget what it's called. But you can try to ID these planes. It'll give you the altitude. One of them was called Bombardier something, and I did a quick search on that plane, and others had posted that plane was chemtrailing. But anyhow, that seems to be the new way that they're doing it here in Southern California. And let me see here. I'm looking at the list. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk quick about how we know things. So if you don't directly experience something, you're taking it on faith. That's all there is to it. And if you use the media or TV, you're using an agenda-ridden source for your facts, and that's not cool. And for the whole alien UFO thing, I would point out, every time you turn on the TV and they cover these things, it's the same old tired Roswell, Bentwaters, just the same handful of things that have been rehashed over and over. What I have done is thrown it all out, and I'm starting clean. I don't believe anything from the space agencies. They've given us too much bad information. I don't believe anything from media outlets. I go out and I look for myself, and that's how I know things. The whole Google Moon thing, there's people posting buildings and all these other things on Google Moon. Well, I can tell you for a fact, those of us who have had access to really big scopes, even bigger than the ones I've shown you here, know for a fact that this is just not the case. I don't know if there's a lunar wave blocking the view, and that could be part of it, but what I can tell you is all these coordinates that keep getting passed around for massive spaceships on the moon, they're not there. When you have a big scope, you just don't see them. And so, you got to be realistic about these things, and you've got to try to get first-hand information or from trusted sources, not just some space agency says something, so that's the gospel. I have thrown this type of information out. And in closing, I'd like to send my condolences to the people of Canada. It looks like they're going to be treated just as badly as we are down here, and I consider us to be in distress down here. Things have just gotten so far out of hand, and that puts a responsibility on those of us who understand the lies that are being perpetrated to help out those who have not caught on yet. So there it is. Cheers. And please, guys, don't steal my clips and do crazy things with them. I really don't want to have to do copyright violations. So there it is. Okay, if you'd like to support this Crrow Discovery project, there's links to Indiegogo and PayPal in the description of this video. So this was initially posted as, it was called the Chem Bomb, unfortunately. But at any rate, I want to do an update on this to get everything I know about it on record, since so many people are working to stop chemtrailing. This object was filmed just after the new year of 2014 started. There had been a week of no chemtrails. As you can see now, it's falling below the first chemtrail that was laid. There's a second chemtrail that's higher, and I believe the plane that laid that second chemtrail at a slightly higher altitude is what dropped this object. Now, as you can see, the trail is pushing to the south and the object is falling against the wind, and it did fall the whole time we saw it, but maybe more importantly, it drops a device that's packed away inside, which I can now demonstrate, which I believe is tracking things. We went something like 30 or 40 days of solid chemtrailing after this had occurred. I think it's critical to get this information out. You know, if someone else films it, they can contact me. If something like this occurs again, I think it's important to have this record so that people can look at it. Anyhow, here comes the actual real beginning of the clip, because I inserted this after I started. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Show. I'm going to do an update on this thing, which I believe was dropped out of a chem plane, and I'm going to show you the reasons why I believe it's not a typical weather balloon. It was in fact dropped. This is a map of San Diego, and on the bottom are the inbound flight paths for inbound plane traffic. They go up to the upper left there, and then the outbound is on the top. You can see the big blue circle is where planes circle when they can't land, when they got to circle around and wait. I couldn't find a map, so that's roughly my eyeballing of it because I'm close to that flight path. And that question mark is where I believe roughly the device was dropped out of the chem plane, and this is the direction of the two chem planes. So you can see this whole area is a flight path. It's very unlikely that someone would have released a balloon, but besides that, this thing fell the whole time. It never went up. Anyhow, here's the object, and you can see it's falling, and it's actually falling. The chemtrails are being pushed to the south, and this is falling slightly to the north. Here comes the point where it's going to come apart, explode. And there it comes apart, and those two circled objects are the things that normally hang from a weather balloon. It was inside this thing, or some device, let's put it that way. Some device which would typically be hung from a balloon when it's ascending, this was packed away inside, and when it blew open, it unpacked. The red thing is the top, and there's a really long piece of string with a shiny thing attached to it that circles, spins. And here it comes again, and there is the device. Now almost immediately you'll see flashes, and I'll break this down better on the next clip. You'll see flashes coming from the thing that's on the end of the lanyard as this device falls. Now, I read that typically weather balloons are full of hydrogen because it's cheaper than helium, and that means they're lighter than air. And this thing was never witnessed, and there's the device, top and bottom. This thing was never witnessed going up. The whole time we saw it, it was going down, and it was spotted maybe 30 seconds after the second chem plane passed. One chem plane went by, first one in like a week, perfectly blue skies. Then the second one went by, and we saw this object. It was above the first chemtrail, so we think the second chem plane dropped it. At any rate, the red thing there, the white thing is the container. The red thing is the device, and then you'll see some shininess down below. That's the object that's hanging from the string. And again, I'll break this down. I have another clip where I tracked the falling debris. And just the amount of stuff that came out of this, if they're full of hydrogen, what was all that metallic stuff? Anyhow. Okay, here's a map of San Diego, and the question mark right there is the best guess where the object was dropped from the chem plane. So right here is the international airport. There's another one, of course, over here for the military. So there's really two airports right here. Like I said, the flight path comes into the international airport and goes out that way. So anyhow, if I zoom in, you can kind of see, you know, it's all houses pretty much. This is a cemetery, but, you know, it's all urban sprawl. Now, one other thing that's interesting is let me get my bearings here. Right here, right in here, a person contacted me. They saw this happen visually. So right here they had a line of sight to the plane. There's a row of high hills and mountains right here. But in this shopping center over here, two people contacted me and said they saw the object get dropped. So anyhow, moving on. Okay, so here's the clip running at 350%, and I'm running it really fast like this because a lot of people said that it was probably parallax, that the object wasn't falling. When you speed it up like this, you can see that it is indeed falling, and it's falling against the direction the chemtrail is being pushed by the breeze. But I also know it's falling because the whole time I tracked this through an 8-inch telescope, I was using the manual declination knob, and I went down the whole time. I went down to the point where my roof blocked me from seeing, you know, where it went from that point. I had a choice, go get in my car or track it, and I chose to track it, and I tracked it till it went down and my roof blocked me. Now at this speed you can really see that it is in fact falling the whole time, so it's probably not lighter than air. I think it's a safe assumption to make. Now I'm going to break down the thing that's inside it. Okay, so this is the object that unpacked itself when the thing blew up, and it has a lanyard. You can even see right here, if you look very closely, that there's a lanyard with some device hanging on the end of it, and it spins around in a circle the whole time, and I'm going to track it to the center here in a minute to get a better view. There you got a really good view. You're probably going to need to be on a desktop monitor to see this very well. But when I track it to center, you'll be able to see better, and you'll see occasional flash, the device on the end of that lanyard that is spinning, collecting data or whatever it's doing. So, okay, I've slowed it down to 30% here. As you can see, it's spinning around on the left side of the screen. There's the flash. You can see the lanyard connected to the flash if you look very carefully. And I took a still where the flash is the brightest. There's the red object on top, the lanyard going down to the device, whatever it is that's spinning and flashing. So in this clip I tracked it to center. And you can see, you're going to have to look really carefully. It's behind it right now. It's coming on the left. There's the lanyard. It's coming around to the front. It's dead in front right now, spinning around to the right. And then it's going to go out of frame here, and I'll give you another view of this tracked shot in inverted color channels. So wait till it goes to center. There's its center. You can see the flash, and if you look very carefully in between the flash and the object, you'll see the lanyard. There's the lanyard that's holding the device that's doing whatever it's doing, and this thing fell all the way to the ground. It's a bummer that I didn't get in my car, but I don't think I ever could have found it. It's just miles and miles of houses. Okay, to sum up in closing, I'm just going to quickly go over the things that we know. The clip was shot on January 17, 2014. We hadn't seen any chemtrails for a week. We'd had blue sky, which was unusual. These were the first two, which is why we broke out the equipment. We saw the first one, we broke it out for the second one. After this occurred, we had well over a month of just solid heavy chemtrailing. This object was in a flight path. Not just one. I mean, there's an inbound and outbound, but there's military and there's a circling area for the planes. So it seems unlikely to me that if this thing ever did go up and was not dropped, that it would be released in the area that it was. As a matter of fact, this object was right in the path of where the first jet had gone. It fell the whole time that we saw it, so it can't be lighter than air. We believe it was dropped by the second plane, and there is a device inside this thing, not hanging from it. You can see in the opening footage of it that there's nothing hanging from it. And then during the explosion, I tracked the device unpacking, and there's a lot of metallic debris, as you can see right now, that came out of this thing. So typically, I guess, weather balloons are filled with hydrogen, so I don't know what all that stuff is. So there's the sum up, and cheers. Okay, in closing, I get a lot of questions about the editing that I do, so I figured I would just show folks how I tracked the very unstable object falling. So what you're seeing here is me tracking the object. I made a fake grid in Photoshop and imported it, laid it over the video, and then I'm going frame by frame. So for every second of video, that's 30 frames you have to readjust. So in this clip it's not too bad, but in one like the boomerang where I track to center, you're looking at, I don't know, 16 or 17 seconds of video where 30 moves for every second of video has to be centered out. It's a lot of work. And by the way, I just masked this out because I don't need people knowing about my router and things like that. I get a lot of things sent to me which are malicious, believe it or not, files and videos and all kinds of stuff, which is basically why I'm masking out the names of my devices. At any rate, there it is. If you would like to support the Crrow Discovery Project, which this clip is a big part of that, you know, it has to do with chemtrails. That's half the game. The other half is the moon. There's information in the description. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project, and as many of you know, 50% of this project is focusing on chemtrails and the unknown objects that we see around them. This clip is a public service announcement for so many folks out there who don't understand that chemtrails are real. Now, this first image, I just want you to know, it is the first chemtrail of the day. I filmed this. It's a middle altitude chemtrail. Notice all the blue around this. It's the only cloud in the sky right now is this chemtrail. And notice the clips as we go along. At the end of this clip, I will show you the sky now, 2 hours later, completely covered in because of chemtrailing, and I will also show you some objects and other things that I've shot in chemtrails, because I understand, you know, a lot of you guys work, you have kids, maybe you live in an area where chemtrails don't get sprayed, which is hard to believe. At any rate, this is to show you that chemtrails are absolutely real. Okay, so here is a really high altitude chem plane, and people will say, oh, that's not a chem plane, those are just contrails. Well, this is in fact a chem plane. The humidity is 17%, but I'm going to show you something here. They spray different kinds of things to mix the chemical, and as they do that, the sky really becomes milky quickly. Now notice how the trail is not very persistent with this plane and how high he is. Now look at this plane that I'm going to load. He's maybe slightly higher, but look, his trail is persistent. He's on the same trajectory, traveling in the same direction, came from the same direction as the first plane. And notice this pure blue sky is already getting milky. You saw that little kind of wispy milking look where the chemicals are beginning to mix together, or changing the sky. Now, when the humidity is low, we notice that the really high altitude planes, sometimes their trails are not very persistent. Today the humidity is 17%. So the plane that you just saw reflects what we see a lot, and then this plane is clearly spraying something different. And again, I will show you evidence why this is not a contrail, because I know a lot of people have been told that these are contrails and they believe that. contrails don't turn off and on, and I have footage of these guys shutting on and off their sprayers. So I will show you that footage. Okay, so here's another maybe mid-altitude plane. I use my zoom on all these, and you can see his spray is trailing off as he goes into this cloud, and right there he's not spraying. As he gets to the edge of this chem cloud, he'll pick up spraying again, but when he clears it, there's a very clear shot of him turning off the sprayer. So just watch him go along here, and it kind of trails on. There it goes. It trailed on, so now he's spraying again. But as soon as he clears these clouds into the blue sky, it's easier to see, and that's coming up here. Here it comes. And there it is. He cut off his sprayer. It trails off a little bit, and now he's spraying nothing. I followed him for quite a while, and he didn't turn back on. And here's a slow-mo recap, zoomed in a little bit so you can see him cut off the sprayer. There it is right there. And then a little residual comes out, and then he's not spraying. Contrails don't do that. You can't just turn on and off a contrail. Either there's contrails or there's not. And that, I mean, that's dismissive of the fact that these are persistent, and that trail that he laid, I can still go out there hours later and look at the result of what it's doing to the sky. Here's another shot of a higher altitude plane, and again, he's going to cut his sprayer. There it goes right there. He cut his sprayer off. Now, these are some lower altitude ones that were laid. I didn't get the planes, but you can see exactly where he cut. There's another one that's even closer in. The sun's right there. These were cut off right there. You can see the sharp edge where they turned off the sprayer. And finally, here's another close-up of a chemtrail that was turned on over the populated areas when they get over the city areas. Okay, so this is where he stopped spraying, and I'll get a wide shot. And that's where he picked up spraying again, and you can see his trail starts. There it is. Okay, and here's a clip of a plane that just basically changes the way he's spraying. There it cuts off, and then I followed him for quite some time, and he looks just like this. Okay, so you can see two layers. You can see this chemtrail right there, and then above it you can see the chemical that's mixing in and spreading out to make a milky white sky. And if you look over here, let me get a wide angle shot on this. You can see that there was no clouds in the sky today, and now it's starting to just get into these milky clouds that will eventually spread out and cover the entire sky. So again, try to get a shot of this. You can see in between there, that little wispy stuff is actually higher than that thick chemtrail, and it was sprayed at a higher altitude and is now mixing in. And just to give you a better view, we see this all the time. I want to zoom in. It's a really powdery, it gives the sky a shiny look at high altitude, but these two things are beginning to mix, and the result, well, I'll show you in the following clips. I'll do a color correction on the video so that the blues are very blue and the whites are very white. But these are just now starting to mix, that thick chemtrail that was done at a lower altitude and this really powdery stuff that came from a higher altitude. And when they mix, well, let me load up the next clip and I'll show you the result. Okay, so as I was editing, I wanted to come out here and get another shot to show you how milky it's gotten. I've color corrected here to make the blues really blue and the whites really white so that hopefully it'll help. But here's the crazy thing. We get these big chemical halos around the sun, and that is not normal. Okay, so over the course of 2 hours, all the chemicals that they've been spraying have mixed. Here's a panoramic 360. I switched cameras to get rid of the telephoto, and you can see down to the horizon, up towards the sun. There is the sun, and actually the moon's really close to the sun right now. It's only about 3 degrees away, we just can't see it. But you can see the entire sky is turning milky white, and in another hour or so it'll be completely closed. And actually down on the horizon there in between the trees you can see another fresh trail laid at a low altitude. Okay, so what I've shown you should be enough for anyone to simply go onto a search engine and search for chemtrails, or go to YouTube, that's even better. And you will see that this is no conspiracy. It is a real thing. And if that's not enough, I'm about to show you some of the very strange things that I have filmed around chemtrails, unknown objects. I'm not trying to tell you these are aliens. I don't know what they are, but I do know that they're very unusual, and they're in fact unknown objects, and they show up when chemtrails are around. I have shot plenty of times when there's just blue sky and got nothing. Every time I see chemtrails, I break out the camera, and quite often I catch these strange objects. So here we go. Okay, here's the first object. It just flashed by that quick. I've slowed it down here. I was tracking a chem plane with my telescope. There it is, which is nearly impossible to do. And I saw this thing flash through. I didn't really realize what it was or get a good enough look to know to stop and go back and find it. So it was only in frame for about a second. But I've filmed other things that look this way. It's kind of like a fiery little orb look to it. And I'll break it down a couple times for you. And what I was doing this day was taking the 8-inch telescope and trying to manually track chem planes. And as I have told you, when these chem planes are out, these orbs and all kinds of things are around. Now here's another one up in the right coming in. This object, which I'll show you a better view of it, it looks like emissions are coming out of it and little explosions or something are happening. But it is tracking, and that's shadow. The other thing is the shadow. The other circle showed you the shadow going through the clouds. But it is tracking at the identical speed of this plane. And right here, when I had it in the editor, I just simply drew a line from this to the plane and ran it in the editor, and it is tracking along exactly. I mean, the line didn't even need to change size at all. So it's traveling along at the exact same speed as the plane. And I'll break it down a little better here, because as it comes in, it looks like emissions are coming off it. Here comes the upper right, and you can see the emissions, and then you'll see what looks like some flaring or some little explosions. And those aren't actually the object. The little tiny dot in front is the object that tracks all the way through. Now here comes the shadow right there, and then it disturbs the clouds as it goes through right here, and I'll give you a better view of that in a minute. It disturbs 2 levels of clouds. So here comes the cloud disturbance as this object, this tracking with the chem plane, goes through. There's the first level of clouds, and then that bottom level, and then in the corner there, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, the shadow shows up again of the object. And here it is in inverted color coming in, just so you can see the emissions coming off the back of it, and then the big flare-ups you can see pretty well. And again, this is one of many, many, many objects. But the next clip that I'm going to load up here is one of the more famous ones. And here's the cloud disturbance in inverted color. So I'll show you the shooting orb next. Okay, we got some real craziness here. I've got 13 clips to go through. I shot all day and I got these orbs, and as I was coming in to do the edit, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that this thing actually shoots. And I'm not sure what it's shooting at, but there's all this cotton candy looking crap falling out of the sky, and these little, you can see them right now, they're shooting by. They look like, I don't know, these white things with tails. And for the first time we see this cottony looking stuff falling. But anyhow, this orb's going to go into the cloud, and keep your eye right on the orb. I'll clue you into when it's going to shoot the first time. And actually, as I did this edit, I saw it shoots twice, and I'll break them both down. So it's just kind of meandering through the cloud here. All these things are shooting through the sky, these little white-tailed things. Okay, here it comes. It's getting close. Keep your eye fixed on the orb, and there it is. It's shot. Now I'm going to break that down. It shoots again right here, but I'll have to break that down because it's much quicker. Okay, here comes the shot. There it is. I'm going to break it down so that you see it go forward and reverse, and you can see the projectile or the beam or whatever the heck it is shooting. Here comes an inverted color. Here comes the shot. There's the shot. and it clears. This is actually quite a long clip. I've had to edit it down, and like I said, I've got 13 of these to go through, and now that I know these things are intelligent or intelligently controlled, I have a lot of frame by frame work. Alright, here comes a better breakdown of the actual shooting. Here it comes. There it is. Reverse, forward, reverse, forward, and then it goes on its way. This is in real time. And now I'm going to show you the same shot here. There's the same shot. Now I'm going to break down the other shot, and I'm going to do it forward and reverse. I couldn't see if it was coming from the object, but when I did this, I could see that it is. So it's shooting something, and maybe it's shooting these little white-tailed fish-looking things that are just zooming all over the sky. Cotton crap falling out of the sky. Okay, here it is, the original clip. Unmanipulated. Actually, there may be a little brightness. I'm going to zoom in and just run it all the way through to the portion I edited out, so you can just watch, and you'll notice these white things zooming through frames. But by the time I edit these other 13 clips out, who knows what we'll get. It takes quite a while to do. At this point, I can safely say these are intelligent things, or they're being intelligently controlled. It seems to me that they're probably not with the chem planes. They're not on the same mission as the chem planes. Otherwise, why would they be shooting things? That's just my guess. That's an opinion, nothing more. But I can't for the life of me figure out why they would be shooting into the chemtrails if they weren't trying to neutralize or stop something. Okay, here comes the shot. There it is, and then you're going to see the second one in real time. It's so quick you can't see it. Anyhow, there it is. Okay, this next clip is of an object falling. We believe it was dropped from the second chem plane of 2 chem planes that were the first to show up in about 8 days or so. Unfortunately, it was named Chem Bomb because I posted it the same day I shot it and did not have time to reflect on what I had just seen. This was shot through an 8-inch telescope, and like I say, we are reasonably sure this was dropped from a chem plane. There is no tether. The tether is packed away inside, which makes it a bit different than a typical balloon, and it falls the whole time. And the reason I know it falls is because I used the declination control on my telescope to track it all the way till the roof blocked me. And that little red thing in there is what I believe is a tracking device with a tether on it that falls all the way to the ground. And this was done over miles and miles of houses, freeway, streets, everything, but again associated with chem planes. Okay, as I close down here, I'd just like to say any reasonable person that has watched what I've shown you here should understand that this is not conspiracy. Chemtrails are real, and further, any reasonable person should go to YouTube and investigate what other people have shot. We all breathe air, and this is going on across the planet. And although it can be argued why this is being done, many think weather manipulation, there are some facts. And one of the facts is that there are 3 common heavy metals found in lab reports all over the planet that are associated with spraying of chemtrails. Beyond that, I'll leave it up to you to look into it and you decide, because my opinion is that the ruling class of this planet, when they do something, it usually has multiple purposes that it's doing. Not just a single thing. At any rate, please take the time, go check this out, and if you do nothing else and you don't understand if chemtrails are real, I've given you a reason to look into it, and you should be better educated now. And in closing, all the folks have been asking me when my shirts are going to be ready. Here they are. They're available at Cafe Press. The link is in this video. So there it is. Chemtrails are real. Don't be fooled. Cheers. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Show. There are 3 days left in the funding at Indiegogo for the Crrow Discovery Project. I thank you all who have contributed, and I will be addressing the upgrades that I'm going to do here in a clip soon. I think it closes Monday. At any rate, Crrowette and I were out checking out chemtrails, and we spotted this shiny thing blinking, so we got the binos on it, and this thing was metallic and rectangular. It was a very strange thing. We got the binos on it to be sure it wasn't balloons, because we see those kind of metallic looking balloons sometimes, but you can tell through the binoculars. So I shot it with a handheld shot, and then I rushed in to get the scope set up so I could get more resolution, but by then it had fallen too low to the horizon and we couldn't get it. At any rate, this is the object, and right now it's actually flashing in this still. I took one still to get my focus adjusted as I began to video. And I'm going to load up the video here in a second. But I have never seen anything quite like this. It came in from above the chemtrail. As you can see right there, it's right above the chemtrail. And it flashes in the sunlight. It looks like it's blinking, but I think that's actually the thing moving around and catching the angle of the sun and flashing. You'll notice for long periods sometimes it doesn't flash at all, and other times it stays lit. But you could tell very easily through the binoculars that this thing was rectangular. It was very angular. Nothing hanging from it, and it slowly meandered down and headed into this chemtrail. And the other thing was the chemtrails they were laying this day were, a lot of them were really short, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 football fields long, and they got really wide, and you'll see in a wide shot of this chemtrail what I'm talking about. And we actually saw the plane turn the sprayer on and turn the sprayer off, and we were getting ready to try to catch that, and I actually do have footage of one plane turning the sprayer on and off. And then we saw this shiny thing. Now here you can see it's meandering down into the chemtrail, and you see that little dark spot down to the right. He kind of turns in that direction and ends up, and as I load the next clip you'll see that he goes down that way. So here's the next clip. And let me spot him here. I think I put a circle up to, yeah, there will be a circle up in a second to show you where he is. He's there, but he's just not lit by the sun, I guess. So there he is, entering the chemtrail. And as he got in there, he kind of went back and forth a bit. And I've never really seen anything that didn't look round. All the things that I've filmed in chemtrails, we call them orbs, and part of the reason we call them orbs is because they're round. But I can guarantee you that this thing was rectangular, whatever it was. And here I'm going to load the next clip. And you can see that chemtrail is very short and fat. He turned on the sprayer and turned it off almost immediately. So here he is coming out of the bottom of the chemtrail, and I take one more short clip after this, and I run in to drag the scope out and try to get a scope shot, which is very difficult to do. I might not even been able to get this thing in the viewfinder. It's a very tough thing to do. And there's the last shot of this very weird angular object that went into the chemtrails. But on the same day, we were seeing these black lines, and these are not shadows. There's an absence of clouds where that thing is. And we occasionally see these dark lines coming off the nose of planes, and we see them laying a dark line off their nose and chemtrails out the rear. So I wanted to get that on film. So I urge everyone, go out, you see these planes, just shoot them. There's so much going on. Anyhow, 3 more days, today, tomorrow, and then Monday funding closes down. Cheers. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Show. I'm going to be introducing a watermark now into all my videos because video theft has just really gone off the charts. The reason, besides the fact that every minute of video that I produce takes me 5 to 10 hours, and that's a conservative estimate, some takes much more, I'm doing research here, and if people see my clips completely gutted of context with no contact information, I have no hope of meeting other people who say filmed the holographic wave, or to further the research with the chem objects we see. So that's the watermark that I'm going to be placing in all my videos now. And I want to thank all the subscribers who have pointed out people who have stripped out context and are just running my videos. So thank you. Okay, so I had the telescope out. I wanted to try to catch a chem plane. There was nothing going on, so I was filming the moon. And while I was filming the moon, lo and behold, a chem plane shows up. So I swing over and I'm again trying to see if I can get a chem plane in a telescope shot, which is darn near impossible. So what you're seeing here is I'm using the manual controls, which is not working. It's not quick enough. So here in a second right here, I go to full manual and I take off all the locks and I just start moving on 2-axis by hand. Now in a second here in the lower left, you're going to see a UFO flash in for about a second. Here it comes from the lower left, and there it is, and there it goes. Anyhow, I catch up to this chem plane, and as you can see, I'm trying to figure out a technique that will allow me to center this thing in frame, or at least, good enough to get good views of these planes, because so many people are reporting that there's funny things going on with these planes. So here we go. We're slowed down, and I'm tracking this so that we can get a look at the plane. But at the end of this plane's run, when it was just about out of view, I think I may have actually figured out a way that I can start to telescopically take a look at these planes. The thing about the chemtrailing that they did to us yesterday is they were doing it in pairs, and at the end of this clip I'll show you what they're doing and what I think it means. And here in a second, I'm going to center down on this, but I'm going to break down the UFO that's in frame for about a second and a half. So there's a telescopic view of a plane that is extremely high. Through binoculars it looks like a dot. Okay, coming in from the lower left in real time here. There it is, in and out of frame in a second. Here it is slowed way down. Here it comes into frame, and you can see it looks like one of these fiery ball orb UFOs that I have filmed before. I did not see it when I was trying to track the plane, unfortunately, or I would have stopped and waited for another plane to come by. Here's the UFO coming in the lower left again. This is not zoomed at all, and that was slowed slightly. And then we're going to take one more view of the UFO. Here he comes at the lower left. There he is, and he's got that kind of bright burning look to it, and I have filmed ones like this before. But here's what they've been doing. 2 planes at exactly the same altitude. The top one was slightly behind the bottom one. Now if you look at the top chemtrail, you can tell it's different. To me, it's weird. They almost look like chromosomes when they begin to dissolve out. But the lower chemtrail is much more persistent, and I think they're mixing chemicals up there. I think they drop these right next to each other, and then they do a chemical mix, and you can really see the difference here in inverted color. Anyhow, stay tuned. I'm going to be running some cool footage that I had from '07 of eclipses and Venus transiting the moon as well, and I'll have some other things soon. I just needed to work out how I was going to put watermarks into the video and try to reduce the theft. Thanks. Okay, welcome to the Crrow Discovery Project. I wanted to show some of the Venus occulting footage that Richard 205 Maria sent me, along with some other stuff, new equipment, and I will refer you to a site at the end of a person named CD who's shooting some very nice video, high quality of the occultation. And while I didn't ask permission, I will show a screenshot and send you over to that channel. So here we go. Okay, I want to start out by showing this new tool that actually Richard 205 Maria sent me. It's actually a camera. It should be very interesting once I get it up and running here. Hopefully it won't start freezing on the East Coast before I get a chance to set up. This is a really nice camera, and I'll show you some images later. I think Richard sent me a Jupiter image that he took with this camera that I'll show you. Anyhow, up here is the place. So many people ask me about telescopes. There's a 1-800 number at OPT. These guys have helped me out with everything that I've bought. They have a 1-800 number. You can call and ask questions. They mail stuff out. So I figured I'd include this just to let people know. Mostly buying optical equipment is about budget. So if you have questions, the thing to do is call a place like this that has good customer service, ask your questions, state your budget, and go from there. Okay, so here is an image that Richard 205 Maria sent me of Jupiter, the light we call Jupiter, that he took with the camera that he sent me, or a, the same kind of camera. And this is really a pretty cool thing. You shoot video at a high frame rate, and then you can stack out the best of those images. And so for someone like me who's always looking for holes in the system we've been presented with, this is a great tool to have. And if you notice over to the right, there's a little light right there, one of the moons, we are told. And I'm really excited. The other thing is it has an IR cut filter in the glass, and since I have a full spectrum camera that is both IR and UV, as well as visual, it will be interesting to see what we can produce. Anyhow, let's jump into the Venus occulting footage. This portion of it I am running at 1500 times speed, so it's been speeded up 1500 times. That is the light we call Venus headed towards the lunar disk, and it will be occulted by the lunar disk, we are told. And right as it gets to the edge, I will slow it down to real time, and that is right here. Now we are going in real time, and I've zoomed in. What's interesting about this, while we didn't get a lot of chance to shoot from a lot of places, I heard from San Diego, Houston, Northern California, up in the northern part of the United States, all over New England, Virginia, and many other places, that chemtrails just blocked the day, which is a bit vexing because I had crystal clear 5 days up to this particular day, and then I saw a fleet of chem planes that I have never seen here before, so many in fact that I just quit counting. But I have presented starlight being occulted, and while that blinks out pretty much all at once, you'll notice this happens more gradually. It's a real shame that I couldn't get my full spectrum camera on this, because what I wanted to do was get the full spectrum camera on this while it was behind what we call the lunar disk. Everything I have seen to date, and the best that I have seen so far, I will present at the end. It's from a channel called CD, and I'll steer you over to see some really sharp footage, some great footage. Richard shot with 3 cameras. Oh, and by the way, I should mention that the Jupiter footage that I showed you was shot with a scope that's quite a bit smaller than mine, according to Richard. But here goes the little light is blinking out now, and it gradually happens. I'm just so bummed that I couldn't get my my 11-inch scope on this with a full spectrum camera. Anyhow, we're going to take another view that is lit a little more, and I had to zoom the footage in because these files are so big. You can notice that there's compression, and again, we're running at 1500 times speed here, and as it gets right to the edge of the disk, we'll go to real speed, and that's right here. We're now running in real time. So I had to really stretch this video to fill the frame, and some of these videos were just so big, I think 80 gigs and bigger on some of these files, that it's just a hassle for Richard to try to send them over to me. So we're really kind of encoding them at a smaller size, and you can see all the compression artifacts. But again, this is another view from Richard. I think he told me he had 3 cameras on it, and we'll watch it gradually go out, and then we'll follow on with the footage from CD. And the footage you'll see there is maybe a little bit more reminiscent of how I shoot. But here we go, gradually going out. And we are going to have another occultation of a very bright star called Aldebaran. I don't remember if that's in January or December, but I'll be covering it. And there the light is blinking out. Okay, I also wanted to show you this footage from channel CD. You can see right here, you'll know you're on the channel. They've got the moons across the header. And I just want to show you, I didn't ask permission to run this, so I'm just going to show you the still. This is Venus here. Here's the moon. It's really quality footage. Well done, CD. So you might want to head over to this channel and check that out. Okay, so in closing, as I have been announcing, I will be launching my own podcast to get away from YouTube censorship, and also to have more of a meaningful conversation away from the kind of troll atmosphere that predominates on YouTube. So the conversation that I have on my site, I will be more accessible to the people who join me there, and we will be free of people who aren't there for a serious conversation or who want to belittle or start trouble, which is basically most of what we see on YouTube at this point. Also, I will be serving my own video there. So while I still will run YouTube videos, most of the important information that I cover and the video that I show will be on my podcast website. So I hope you guys will join me there. I was going to launch in December, but it looks like January may be a better bet. Okay, hello all. Got an interesting catch today. My opening slide here points out the equinoxes and solstices. This is critical information for human beings to be aware of. It's encoded absolutely all over our planet. I would urge you to take the time to learn what equinoxes and solstices are about. Anyhow, this is a chemtrail object that I shot today. It's going to come in at the upper right. This is a handheld shot, unfortunately, and I did not see it when I was filming, so just keep an eye on it for a second. And as it gets here, you'll see a shadow on the second circle go by, and the clouds will disturb down to the right of where that object just went, and I'll get a better view of that. I panned the camera to get a better look at the chemtrail plane. Did not see this object. It's tracking at an identical speed to that chem plane, and it's going further away in this shot. It's just tracking right along at the same speed with this chem plane. In a minute here, I'm going to zoom in and do the best I can. It's very difficult to bring contrast up on a white object when the sky is so light blue. Anyhow, 400% zoom, here it comes, upper right corner. When it first comes in, it looks like it's spraying something out the back, and then there's like these little explosions. That bright thing is not the object. That little dot in front is the thing that tracks all the way through the scene. As we come down, there's the shadow. There's going to be a big circle. Look at the clouds here. That's the shadow on the other side. The clouds are disturbed by this object going through, and I'm going to show you the disturbance here again and slow it down 50%. This is the object. On the left, the shadow is going to cross, and then you can see the clouds disturbed. There's really kind of two layers above and below where it disturbs. I don't know how it disturbed the clouds in that way. Anyhow, this is inverted color. There's the little explosion. It's throwing off a glow. That big dot is behind the object, whatever it is. The light dot in front is the object. It comes into the cloud. There's the shadow. And then here's the cloud disturbance that is actually below the object. On the left there, that was the shadow of the object. Here's the original clip blown up 250%, and I've manipulated color a bit. Came in the upper right. There's a minor explosion or something there, then that big flare-up. As it comes down, the circle on the left will be the shadow. Oh, I didn't circle it. There's the shadow. It comes through the cloud. The cloud starts to disturb in two layers there. And then I track back over to the chem plane. There it is in the center. It's going away from us at this point, and I pull the chem train up. You can see they're traveling at the same speed. In the editor, I drew circles around both and made a line that was an equal size, and they track at just the same speed the whole time. Anyhow, there it is, a really bizarre object. I have no idea what it is, but it was tracking with a chem plane, and I don't know what to say about it. There it is. Okay, so in this clip you're going to see the effects of the chem trailing that's been going on for 3 days, and also if you want to jump to I think it's 10 minutes 12 seconds, you'll see the zoom in I do on the red object. You know, if you don't agree with me and you're certain this is a weather balloon, that's cool. We don't need to fight about it. Your opinion's cool, my opinion's cool, so there it is. Okay, so we're on day 3 of our current chem assault that started with the object that I filmed the other day. The 2 chemtrails that I picked up the object in air were the first 2 chemtrails after, I don't know, something like 7 or 8 days of pure blue skies. And you can see, doing a 360 here, everything is just pretty much chemmed in. There's one of the latest trails being laid. So yeah, it's terrible. Okay, so this is also day 3 of the chem attack that started when we filmed the object. But notice that weird black line, we see it a lot.
It's getting kind of evened up with it.
And at first you think, oh, we're just looking at a shadow, but sometimes you can see 2 planes and like this black line that looks like a shadow will be coming off the nose of a plane, and it'll be on the same side as the sun. And as you can see, so where's the sun? There's the sun. There's the sun. So this actual shadow is on the same side as the sun. The sun's on the left, the shadow's on the left. But it's this weird dark line. It's actually going away now. You can't see it so well. But anyhow, I just wanted to try to film that. The chemtrails just blowing by, you know?
Yeah.
But if there's a UFO, of course, you think they're fast the other way. Now that I'm so zoomed in, I wonder if I could ever even see them. Alright, come on, show me a plane. I tracked that mother. That doesn't look very focused.
Would it be easier for you to see if you had your laptop?
No, probably not.
Not yet, anyway. Ooh, an orb. Right there.
Where?
Right there. See it?
No.
It's right there.
I
Look,
need-
right there.
I need my glasses. I can't
Okay.
get on it. Top one or bottom one?
In between the two lines.
Can you
Yeah, it's
see
still
it?
there.
Oh, I see it. Come on. Take this. Okay, screw this. There it is.
It's going towards the bottom.
I have it. I have a frickin' orb. We grab here. I have an orb through the scope. Look at that. Can you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I can see it. I can't see it through the clouds right now, though.
I can. It's amazing. Look how white that thing is. It's like pure crystal clear white.
Is the camera on?
Yes.
Everything all right. How's your freaking battery?
Good. Brand new. Oh my God, honey.
You still got them?
Yeah, you got the best eyes. I never would have saw that in a million years. Keep a visual on him, because if he goes real
well,
quick,
hold on. I don't know where he's at.
he's below the chemtrail.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Keep a visual on him, because if he
Alright.
hauls butt, I won't be able to track him.
All right.
What is he doing?
He's just cruising. Can you see flames like the other one we had?
No,
Is it a balloon?
no. It's a pure white light. Okay, I'll take that.
To it.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! It blew up.
Don't lose him.
It blew up.
Blew up into what?
I don't know.
Dang it! I had to move my eyes.
I've got the whole thing on film. Now there's a little one. They're dropping these. It frickin' blew up.
Like a powder thing? Stop.
Yeah, it's leaving a trail of chemical up there, but there's still a core.
Here comes. Now, right above.
I can't.
Okay.
I'm tracking this thing. I'm still got the
Here
debris.
comes the plane hauling ass.
I got the debris from the explosion. It frickin' blew up.
Well, I don't know what blows up mean, honey.
It means it blew apart into a million pieces. And there's still some falling on us.
There's a big old. He might go through your lens. It's kind of crisscrossing. He's just dropping the sparkly stuff.
There's more of them falling. See, there's two. Can you see two? There's a third one, but I can't. It's right there. I can't get them in. Oh, I can't get them in frame. There's two of them.
Here comes another.
They're coming back together. Oh, something just flashed. Something else just flashed. It's amazing. I don't know which one to follow. Oh, I'm following that one. It's got like something attached to it. Unbelievable, honey. What is
There
it?
you go. There's your UFO for the day.
I don't even know what that is. I mean, these orbs, maybe they're not what we think they are. Maybe they're just little chemical dispersal units. Blew apart. That thing's still falling, honey. You think these things fall on our heads? And in our water? I mean, look at this thing. It's not coming apart. Can you see?
Is it flying or coming down?
It's falling. It looks like it's falling, but it's got like a wavy part on it. The LCD's too small. God, I hope my focus is good.
Here comes some geese or ducks.
Poor geese gotta fly through this crap. It ain't right, man.
It ain't right.
It's not even right. All those poor birds. I mean, I'm gonna run out of film time here. Okay, so this is the red object. I didn't track it, but there was enough footage of it. And watch it right now. Look down to the left, and that thing floating around is just junk on my camera. This is manipulated color, zoomed in 500% at real speed. See that thing coming around? There's something rotating with a metallic end on it. I saw the flashes, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this once it's encoded. In the raw footage, I had a hard time seeing it. There it is behind it. Now here it comes back around. There it is again. It's flashing, looking really long. It's a parallax effect, I'm sure, and then it'll look really short. It's a long wire, whatever it is, but it's rotating at a constant period. I timed it out by frames, and it's damn near like clockwork. So, you know, I know a lot of people said, hey man, this is a weather balloon, and my problem with that is I'm pretty darn sure this came out of a chemtrail plane. So to assert that they're doing something with weather to me is absurd, because I think what they're doing is they're collecting data here, probably with this thing, to figure out what the best way to chemtrail the sky is. The amount of debris that came out of that object that blew open, it's astonishing, and it's metallic, it's shiny, and it's, you know, there was just so much of it, and now this thing's falling down, and the thing is there's a piece of latex or whatever the hell the container's made out of falling, and this thing doesn't fall at much different a rate of speed. At one point, the latex or whatever it is in front, and at another point, this is in front. They're falling similar speeds. They just fall apart so that I can't track them. My guess is that this thing hits the ground. It's got GPS on it, as all the weather balloon people were saying, and someone comes and collects it, or it says on it, please mail me home, which would be ironic, which would mean people that are getting chemtrailed all day for the last 3 days over their heads would actually mail this back to them and help them figure out how to disperse their chemtrails, if in fact that's what this is about. Having said that, that's what I think. You know, we had blue skies for 8 days, and then the very first 2 trails that show up are low and thick, and we spot this thing in between them, and it's falling. And to me, it associates it with the chemtrail. To me, it came out of the chemtrail plane. Do I have a corner market on truth? I do not. I could be wrong. It's my best guess. It's what my gut tells me. So if you're dead set that this is just an average weather balloon, that's cool. We don't need to argue about it. You're entitled to your opinion. I've stated what my opinion is, and this is the additional information that I was able to glean. So anyhow, cheers to everyone. Thanks. Bye.